July 9th, 1941. 02X hours, the North Atlantic. The air inside the HMS Petunia is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, stale tobacco, and the metallic tang of fear. You are 400 miles south of Iceland, surrounded by a darkness so absolute it feels heavy. Somewhere beneath the black, churning swells of the Atlantic, a predator is breathing. Suddenly, the silence is shattered. A dull, rhythmic thump vibrates through the steel hull. Then another. To the port side, the horizon erupts. A merchant tanker carrying 10,000 tons of high-octane aviation fuel has been unzipped by a G-70E torpedo. The explosion is so bright it sears the retinas of the lookouts. Men are transformed into shadows against a wall of fire. This is the work of the Grey Wolves, Hitler's U-boats. They move in wolf packs, coordinated with a terrifying supernatural precision. They know exactly where the convoys are. They know when the escorts are low on fuel. It's as if they are reading the admiral's mind, and in a way, they are. Miles away, inside the cramped, diesel-fumed belly of a Type 7 U-boat, a radio operator's fingers dance across a keyboard. The machine looks like a standard typewriter encased in a wooden box, but every time he strikes a key, a letter lights up on a glass panel. WWII. To a casual observer, it's gibberish. To the German High Command, it is the Enigma, the Unbreakable cipher. Every morning at the stroke of midnight, the German military changes the settings. They swap the rotors, adjust the ring settings, and reconfigure the plug board. The result? There are over 150 quintillion possible combinations. That is a 15 with 18 zeros behind it. If you had 1,000 men working 24 hours a day, testing one setting every minute, it would take them longer than the age of the universe to find the right one. While the world fights with steel, the British are losing the war because they are fighting a ghost. The Atlantic is becoming a graveyard. Churchill knows that if the merchant ships stop arriving, Britain starves. If Britain starves, the lights go out in Europe forever. But while the generals demand more destroyers and the politicians demand more planes, a different kind of soldier is arriving at a quiet, Victorian estate 50 miles north of London. His name is Alan Turing. He isn't a soldier. He isn't a spy. He's a marathon-running, socially awkward math teacher with a bicycle that drops its chain at precisely timed intervals. He arrives at the gates of Bletchley Park, a place the locals think is an asylum, carrying nothing but a bag of books and a mind that sees the world not in objects, but in logic. The elite cribbers of Hut 6 are already there, exhausted, their eyes bloodshot from staring at intercepted German flimsies. They are trying to solve the enigma by hand, using linguistics and guesswork. They are looking for a crack in the door. Turing walks into the room, listens to their frantic theories for a moment, and then says something that stops the room cold. You're trying to solve a machine with a human mind. That is your first mistake. To beat a machine, you need a machine of your own. The room goes silent. In 1939, the idea of a thinking machine is pure science fiction. But as the casualty lists from the Atlantic grow longer every hour, the math teacher begins to sketch a blueprint that will either save the world or become the most expensive failure in British history. The skeptics in Whitehall call it Turing's white elephant. To the high-ranking officers in the Admiralty, every pound sterling poured into Hut 8 is a pound stolen from the production of depth charges and Spitfires. They see a tall, awkward man obsessed with a massive copper-wired contraption that does nothing but click and whir in a shed while the British Empire bleeds out in the Atlantic. But inside the makeshift laboratory, the atmosphere is electric, with a different kind of desperation. You are standing in a room that smells of hot oil, ozone, and burnt coffee. Before you sits Victory, the first functional bomb. It is a mechanical beast, 6.5 feet tall and weighing over a ton. It houses 36 Enigma equivalents, their drums spinning in a hypnotic, frantic blur. This is Turing's steel brain. Its job isn't to find the right setting. Its job is to discard the billions of wrong ones with a speed no human could ever hope to match. Beside Turing stands Gordon Welchman, a brilliant mathematician who added the diagonal board, an ingenious electrical lattice that allows the machine to eliminate impossible combinations 10 times faster. And then there is Joan Clarke. She is one of the few women in a room dominated by men, possessing a mind for logic that rivals Turing's own. Together, they are trying to do the impossible, find a crib. A crib is a piece of known text, a predictable human habit hidden within the chaos of the machine. The Germans are disciplined, efficient, and devastatingly repetitive. Every morning at Oro 6 Karg, a German weather station in the North Sea transmits a report. Turing knows that no matter how complex the Enigma setting is, that message will almost certainly contain the word Wettervorhersage, weather forecast. Even more predictably, almost every message ends with the same 2 words, Heil Hitler. The Germans are their own worst enemy, Turing mutters, his eyes fixed on the spinning rotors. They believe their system is so perfect that they've become lazy. They've given us the keys, we just have to build the lock. But the lock is stubborn. For months, the bomb runs until its relays smoke, but it finds nothing but dead ends. Outside the gates of Bletchley, the news is catastrophic. In June 1941 alone, U-boats sink 310,000 tons of Allied shipping. The happy time for the German Navy has begun. On the maps in the Admiralty's war rooms, the red pins marking sunken ships are starting to overlap. The pressure on the team is soul-crushing. You can see it in the way Clarke's hands tremble as she adjusts a patch cord, or the way Turing stops eating, pacing the grounds of the estate at 3 in the morning, talking to himself in a language of pure logic. If the bomb doesn't work, the U-boats will starve Britain into submission by Christmas. Then, on a Tuesday morning, the air in the room changes. The bomb is running a sequence based on a weather report intercepted from the Bay of Biscay. The rhythmic click-clack-click of the drums is the only sound in the shed. Suddenly, there is a loud, metallic thud. One by one, the drums stop spinning. They lock into place with a finality that makes everyone in the room hold their breath. Welchman steps forward, his heart hammering against his ribs. He scribbles down the positions of the rotors. He runs to a nearby Enigma machine, a captured unit, and begins to type in a string of intercepted gibberish from the morning's U-boat. Broadcast. The first letter lights up, N. The second, A. The third, C. The fourth, H. Nach. Towards. The room is so quiet you can hear the ticking of a clock on the far wall. Welchman continues. The letters form words. The words form a sentence. Wolfpack westlich von Cap Farvel. Wolfpack west of Cape Farewell. For the first time since the war began, the British aren't just listening to the noise of the Enigma. They are reading the thoughts of the German Navy. They have the location of every U-boat in the North Atlantic. They have the invincible code in their hands. Turing doesn't cheer. He doesn't celebrate. He simply looks at the machine and then at his watch, because he knows something the others haven't realized yet. Breaking the code was the easy part. Now they have to decide what to do with the information. If they save every ship, the Germans will realize the Enigma is broken and change it instantly. To win the war, Turing and his team must now play God, deciding who lives and who dies to keep their secret safe. The breakthrough is not met with fanfare or headlines. Instead, it is met with a terrifying, heavy silence. The intelligence pulled from the airwaves is given a code name, Ultra. It is deemed so sensitive that only a handful of people, including Winston Churchill and the top brass at Bletchley, are even aware it exists. You are now in the heart of the Admiralty's Operational Intelligence Center. The walls are covered in massive charts of the Atlantic. For years, these maps were a sea of red pins, sunken Allied ships. But now, new pins are appearing, blue pins. These represent the U-boats. For the first time, the hunters are the ones being hunted. But Turing knows that they are walking a razor's edge. If the British suddenly start sinking every U-boat that assembles for a strike, the German High Command will realize the impossible has happened. They will scrap the Enigma, design a new machine, and Bletchley will go dark. The war would be lost in a matter of weeks. To protect the secret, the Allies have to engage in a macabre game of divine calculation. Imagine you are a young intelligence officer at Bletchley. You have just decoded a message. You know that a wolf pack is sitting directly in the path of a slow-moving convoy of 40 merchant ships. Hundreds of sailors, men with wives and children back in Liverpool or New York, are sailing into a trap. You have the power to save them, and you are ordered to do nothing. To make the intelligence look natural, the British Intelligence Service, MI6, creates a phantom world. Before a convoy is diverted or a U-boat is attacked, they send a lone reconnaissance plane to fly over the coordinates they already know. They ensure the Germans see the plane. When the British destroyers arrive later, the German commanders simply curse their bad luck and the eagle eyes of the British pilots. They never suspect the math teacher in the woods of Buckinghamshire. Turing watches from the sidelines as his logic is translated into life and death. He is a man who values truth above all else, yet he is now the architect of the greatest lie in history. The toll is visible. He becomes even more withdrawn, his eccentricities sharpening. He famously chains his tea mug to a radiator so no one can steal it. He wears a gas mask while cycling to avoid hay fever. But beneath the quirks, his mind is racing ahead. He knows the Germans aren't static. By late 1941, the tide is turning. The mid-Atlantic gap, the area where planes couldn't reach, is being closed by ultra-guided destroyers. The tonnage of sunken ships begins to drop. The gray wolves are being bled dry. Admiral Karl Dönitz, the mastermind of the U-boat war, begins to grow suspicious. He is a paranoid, brilliant strategist, and he feels a leak in the system. On February 1st, 1942, the nightmare happens. The German Navy introduces a new variable. They add a fourth rotor to the Enigma machines used by the U-boats. It's called the M4. In an instant, the screens at Bletchley go blank. The bomb machines, designed for the three-rotor Enigma, are suddenly useless. The lights go out. The Atlantic goes dark. As you stand in Hut 8, the silence is no longer heavy with a secret. It is heavy with death. Out in the freezing waters of the Atlantic, the happy time for the U-boats is about to return with a vengeance, and Turing's machine is now nothing more than a ton of useless copper and steel. For 10 months, Bletchley Park is a tomb. The Shark cipher, the name given to the new four-rotor U-boat communications, is an impenetrable wall of static. From February to December 1942, the Atlantic becomes a slaughterhouse. Without Ultra to guide them, Allied convoys are sailing blind into the mouths of waiting wolf packs. In November alone, over 800,000 tons of shipping are sent to the bottom. You can almost hear the ghost of the Titanic in the sheer volume of steel resting on the seabed. Turing is frantic. The 3 rotor bombs cannot handle the exponential jump in complexity. To find the settings for the M4, they don't just need a bigger machine, they need a faster one. But while Turing and Welchman draw up plans for a high-speed 4-rotor version, they need a pinch, a physical piece of the puzzle to bridge the gap. On October 30th, 1942, they get it. In the Mediterranean, the destroyer HMS Petard hounded the German submarine U-559 for 16 hours, forcing it to the surface. As the German crew abandons the sinking sub, 2 British sailors, Lieutenant Anthony Fasson and able seaman Colin Grazier, do the unthinkable. They dive into the freezing, oil-slicked interior of the sinking U-boat. Water is cascading through the hatch. The boat is groaning, ready to plunge 15,000 feet to the floor of the Mediterranean. They scramble into the radio room, water up to their chests, and find the Holy Grail, the M4 codebooks and the short signal weather ciphers. They hand the documents to a 16-year-old canteen assistant, Tommy Brown, who is waiting on the deck. Seconds later, the U-559 lurches. Fasson and Grazier are sucked down with the sub, giving their lives for a few damp books. When those books arrive at Bletchley, Turing's eyes light up. They have the cribs again. By December 13th, the shark is broken. The blue pins return to the maps in the Admiralty. But the world has changed. The war is moving faster than gears and rotors can spin. Turing realizes that the future isn't just mechanical, it's electronic. He begins to mentor a brilliant post office engineer named Tommy Flowers, who is building something even more radical, Colossus. It is the world's first programmable, electronic, digital computer. While the bomb cracked the Enigma, Colossus would go on to shatter the even more complex Loren cipher used by Hitler himself. By 1944, the math teacher and his team have effectively shortened the war by at least 2 years. Without Ultra, the D-Day landings in Normandy likely would have failed or never been attempted at all. Every Tiger tank position, every fuel shortage, and every desperate order from Berlin was known to the Allies before the ink was even dry on the German flimsies. When the war finally ends, the silence doesn't lift. It hardens. The bombs are dismantled. The Colossus machines are smashed into scrap metal. The thousands of men and women who worked at Bletchley Park are told they must never speak of what they did, not to their spouses, not to their children, not even to each other. They return to civilian life as if the last 6 years never happened. Alan Turing, the man who saved millions of lives with nothing but logic, is discarded by the very government he rescued. In 1952, he is prosecuted for his sexuality, subjected to chemical castration, and stripped of his security clearance. 2 years later, he is found dead after biting into a cyanide-laced apple. For decades, the world believed the Battle of the Atlantic was won by luck and bravery alone. It wasn't until the 1970s that the secret of Ultra was finally declassified. Only then did the world realize that the greatest weapon of World War II wasn't the atomic bomb or the Spitfire. It was a copper-wired machine in a wooden shed, and the quiet, awkward genius who taught it how to think. Today, every time you use a smartphone or a laptop, you are using the descendant of Turing's steel brain. The math teacher didn't just win a war, he invented the future.